Hello friends and welcome to another video. Happy Thursday. We're back in the fab area. We are doing more work on the Turbo RX7 project. I want to start off by showing you guys the RX7's engine bay is painted, but you're not going to be able to see the whole thing because it's covered in protection wrap right now, because in this video we're getting a lot done. So I'm going to start off this video by undercoating the bottom of the car. I have some undercoating set up and ready, and it is time to get everything undercoated. I do want to say I apologize. I know I keep saying it's time to put the motor in, time to put the motor in. I am going to do it in this video, but I am doing other stuff because I've been wanting to refresh this car for a really long time, and the timing just hasn't really worked out right. And so now that the motor's out and I'm doing all this work, it's time for this thing to get the kind of not full redo, but some cleanup that it's needed for a long time. I think in this video what we're gonna do, we're gonna undercoat it, let that dry. The motor is definitely going in after that. It's a hot one today. We're well over the hundreds. We had a monsoon storm beginning of the week. It's nice and humid, so it's gonna be a sweaty day, unfortunately, but there's work to be done. We're gonna get it done. I'm gonna get everything masked off on the RX7. We're gonna drop the front subframe and then quick undercoat, let that set, and then we'll throw the subframe back in, and then it'll be time to put the turbo motor in transit. I'm excited, you guys. Keep watching, keep following, because we're getting a lot done in this video. Now I know a ton of you are going to ask why I have wheels hanging from the front of the RX7. Some of you might know. For those of you that think I'm crazy, what I'm doing is adding some wheels to the front to counterbalance the car, because pretty much all the weight's out of the front of the car. Especially once I take the subframe out, there's going to be nothing left. So I want to make sure that there's still some weight on the front of the car. Otherwise, if all the weight's in the back, the whole car is just going to tip off the lift. So this is a nice, quick, easy way to counterbalance the front of the car to keep the whole thing from tipping. So now we're going to get the subframe out, because then that leaves everything that I want to spray with the undercoating open, making it easy to go through and undercoat the whole car. We got the subframe out. Everything is masked off and cleared and ready for undercoating. I am going to do a quick spray through all of this stuff here just to get any dirt, grime, anything like that off. We just gotta do some spraying down real quick. The perk of Arizona is that it's hot and dry, so this stuff should dry pretty quickly. So we're gonna spray everything down really good, get any paint that's flaking off and anything that's gonna come off easy done, and then we'll let that dry for 20-30 minutes, then we'll lay down some undercoat. Now that I am soaking wet, this whole thing is pressure washed. I'm gonna leave it to dry. I am gonna wash off real quick, and then I will come back, get everything fully dried, and then we'll go ahead and start putting some undercoating on this thing, get that done so that it can start drying, and then get started on putting the subframe back in. Car has been sprayed down and it is fully dried off now. We're gonna undercoat it and then start to let it dry, and after that we should be good to put the subframe back in. So we're gonna do some spraying. this thing is undercoated. I'm very excited to have a new layer of undercoating on this thing, so I'm glad that I did it. I will still have to undercoat the back of the car, basically everything from the subframe back. I decided I'd do that when the rear subframe comes out for me to do the rear turbo diff. So when I put the turbo 2 diff in the back, I'll pull the fuel tank out and I'll go ahead and get the rear all undercoated. But I am happy with how this came out. I'm glad that it's all one color again and it's just undercoating black. I think it'll look really good once this thing's put all back together, to see the actual paint and then also have the undercoating kind of sitting there. I think it looks really clean when the undercoating is in the right spots. Also, it's going to give it more protection. I did a total of 3 layers in the wheel arch area, only for the fact that that's where all the rocks and debris gets thrown up, so I wanted to make sure I did a nice thick layer there. So now it's just waiting for that to dry, and then we can go ahead and get the front subframe back in. Once that's in, then it's time to mount the turbo motor and trans. I am very excited, you guys. We are just minutes away from being able to put the subframe back together and start trying to get the motor in this thing, and I'm beyond excited for this, so stay tuned. At the end of the day, undercoating the RX7, I decided to also repaint and clear the subframe since it was off. So we got this guy all done. It's now been 2 days since everything was painted, so it should be plenty of time for the initial hardening and drying of all the paint. So we're gonna get the subframe back into the car and start putting this thing back together. I think this is the final curve, minus pulling the subframe, of turning around into reinstalling instead of tearing stuff apart. We're gonna get this guy off the hook and get it back into the car so we can start getting stuff moved wherever it needs to go to get the motor in transit. The whole steering system is back in the car. We've got the suspension all hooked back up, the control arms are mounted back on, the sway bars are bolted back in, and we've got all of the wiring cleared out of the way. So we have a nice clear tunnel here. That means the only thing left to do is get this guy on the engine lift, and it is time to get the turbo motor in the RX7. Super excited, let's do this. And there you go, friends. We've got an FD RX7 motor hooked up to an FC Turbo 2 trans in the engine bay of the FC drift car. That is so sick to have that in. I am so excited, but can't get too excited yet. Still got to make our motor mounts for both sides. I'm going to now get this thing centered left and right and up and down, get it level. And then we'll start trying to figure out how to make some motor mounts for this thing to get everything met up so that it is truly mounted in the car, so we can start working on the next step, which is going to be making the moves to get this thing running. I just got back from the metal supply store. We've got all of the materials we should need for our engine mount, as well as the oil pan is off the car, so that we can go ahead and get these guys all traced out, start getting some holes drilled, some cutting, get everything cut to size. This plate's going to be for the end pieces, so we're going to start marking some holes and get everything aligned and see what kind of motor mount we can come up with, what kind of strength we can make. And I'm going to try and do this relatively quick. I could take a lot more time on it, but I really need to get these mounts done so that we can get moving on some other stuff. So let's get into these mounts, get them finished up so we can get the motor truly mounted in the chassis. So we've got our holes for the motor mount bolts themselves. The thought that I'm going for is kind of a hybrid based idea of the Angel Motorsports motor mount. It's going to be, like I said, kind of loosely the same, a little different. What we have here is all of our points drilled out. So now we have some of this stuff, a nice solid thick stock. What these guys are going to do is, you can see the bolt slips right inside of this and fits nice and smoothly. So there is, below this bar, some oil pan bolts. So my thought is that I'm going to do kind of what the Angel Motorsports one did and cut little segments out of here and then weld them onto these to basically space that bar off of here to clear those oil pan bolts. The next step is going to be to get this guy measured out and cut, and then we can move from there. So we have all of these spacers cut. These guys are all cut and ground down so that they are within 1/2 of each other. So the next step is to whip out the TIG. I know that I said, I think in the last video, that I need to learn to use TIG. I have been learning to use TIG. I do have a cheapy TIG welder. The problem is I'm not comfortable yet to do thinner material. So that's why I am gonna break it out on this piece, because of the fact that this is pretty thick metal, thick wall tubing. The thick stuff is a lot more forgiving. We're gonna get these welds done, and then we're gonna start working on making these side pieces once this bar is done. And then once these side pieces are done, then we can do our plate that's actually gonna sit here, that will sit on the factory bushing and sit in the factory spot. So I got this guy done. We have all of the welds done on it. It's fully finished up. So our next step here is going to be chopping this. I already got some marks on it for where I need to cut. So we're gonna get some cuts done, and then I think we are good to get this guy bolted in just for mocking purposes and start working on the sidebars that are gonna come off of these. I also 3D printed some mock-up engine mount bushings. These are not strong enough to actually hold the motor, but these at least give me sizing. So now we're over here in the purple car engine bay. Basically what I'm doing here is this whole thing is factory, so it's a factory NA motor, factory mounts. So what I'm gonna do is actually measure out the height of the motor compared to the subframe, and then I'm also gonna measure out the center point between the front nut and the frame rails so that I get an idea of where this motor sits, and then I can actually match that on the FD motor in the black car so that I know that the motor is going to mount exactly where it should be. And this is why, depending on what swap you're doing, it's good to double check what the factory motor center point is, because as you can see, the motor is actually not centered. So it's 13 3/4 from the driver's side to the center crank bolt, and then it's actually 16 inches from the passenger side rail to the center crank bolt. I was originally going to center the motor between the frame rails so it was dead center. And based off this, that's actually not what needs to happen. It actually needs to be shifted over towards the driver's side a little bit. So it's a good thing that I looked. Now that I know that, we'll head back over to the black car and then get the motor centered. We're gonna do final alignment and then start making these side rails and the landing plates for the motor mount. This is our side bar that we're gonna be using. It's gonna be mounted this way, and then the bar that goes under the motor is gonna be mounted this way, and we're gonna have it sit basically just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark with this scrap piece the area that I want to cut out. so that it actually insets in up to this outer wall. And then after I get that marked out and cut, I want to make basically from this point to here, I'm going to cut this essentially triangle out so I can fold this down and actually run it at a downward angle, so that instead of being just squared out like that, it'll actually have a nice slope that comes down to here and kind of makes this look a little bit more complete. Well, we have our two plates cut, our left and our right. So now I think I'm gonna get all these cleaned up, and then we'll get the crossbar out of the car, get everything set up, squared, and ready to weld. I think we're gonna tack the crossbar in, and then we'll bend these tabs down, tack them, and then fully weld everything out. It is all welded. I did have to break out the TIG on these two back sections. The gap was just a little too big, but by no means perfect, but I know I at least got good penetration, and I know that's going to be solid. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's definitely going to work. It's definitely going to be strong. At this point now, I'm going to let that cool off for a little bit, and then we'll get it mounted back up in the car and start doing measurements to do the side landing plates and get this thing wrapped up, done, and the motor fully mounted in the car. It is, again, another day. Yesterday when I got the mount finished, I realized that I did the sidebars backwards. So I ended up having to cut all that off, grind everything down and re-weld it, which really sucked. I'm bummed that I wasted that much time, but we have it back in and our sidebars are on. This guy did have to get notched in order to make the clearance for the mount. I was worried about hitting this point right here on the motor. That's why I kind of pushed this side out, but I think I probably could have gone in at least a 1/4 inch or so, but I think we can still make this work. So now that this is done, I've got the two landing plates cut out. So I'm going to get these cut, and then we are going to drill our center hole for where they're going to land on the pucks, and then we can start working on the side plates that will go from here over to the landing pad. a motor fully being supported by motor mounts. Motor is finally in. Do have one problem. That is that this bolt goes into this side piece here, so I got some more stuff to do there, but that's gonna be a quick thing. I think it's time to get out of the fabrication, I don't know, stage for a little bit and hop on to getting some more mechanical work done. So I think we're gonna cut this video off here, but next video, we're gonna go ahead and pull the rear subframe out, pull the rear diff out, pull the gas tank out, pull all of the fuel lines out, and then we'll jump back into some fabrication work because we'll have to weld the turbo diff. And then after we're done welding the turbo diff, we'll start putting everything back together, put the diff subframe back in the car, and then we'll have to start working on getting the fuel tank stuff done. So the lift pump going to the surge tank, and then we'll get the surge tank done, get our lines ran, and get the fueling for this thirsty thing done. Either way, I think we're getting pretty close. I think we're gonna do some, like I said, a bit of mechanical work, get the rear subframe pulled out, fuel tank, all that stuff figured out, get the fuel lines done, turbo diff welded, and then we're gonna jump back into fabrication mode so we can figure out the V-mount setup for this. So we're gonna have radiator on the bottom, intercooler on top, get the front bars done, the bash bar done, get the hood mounts or the hood posts done, and then we'll jump on to wiring and electrical stuff. So I appreciate you guys following on another video. If you could always hit that subscribe button. If you saw anything of concern or anything that you have more questions about, feel free to comment and I'll get back to you guys as quick as I can. As always, if you liked it, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And if you want some merch, or if you're looking at some RX7 or Miata 3D printed parts, definitely jump on the Etsy site. It'll be linked below. But I think we're good on this one. Next video, we're doing rear end stuff and fueling. Keep an eye out for it. Thanks, guys. Peace.